Hi, I'm Kari Tillman. I'm with the Brett Torino Foundation. Thank you for joining us at our Be 100% podcast, where we inspire people to be 100% no matter what you do in life. Welcome, everyone. We have a very special guest. All of our guests are very special. We do say that, but this camp is near and dear to my heart for a number of reasons, of which we'll get into. But I'd like to have our guest introduce herself, and we'll get talking about why she's here and what her role is when she's here at Camp I AM-TLC.
Hi, I am Josie Covell. I am the medical director for Camp I AM-TLC, and I go by the camp name Scrubs.
All right, so let's get started.
Okay.
When did you join us here?
This is my 11th year, so I want to say my first year was 2013 is when I started up here.
And how did you end up here? Like who?
My sister got me involved. She had done camp the year before as a counselor, and then she became part of the committee the following year. And she said, hey, you need to come up and join us. Can you come be just a camp nurse? They had a different medical director at the time. I said, sure, of course, no problem. And then a few weeks later, she called me and said, actually, we don't have a medical director. I need you to be the medical director. And instead of one camp, I need you to do 4.
That's how we do it up here.
Yes. I was like, oh my gosh, I have no idea what I'm doing, but okay, sign me up. So I came up and I've been here ever since.
Ever since. Mm-hmm. That's lovely. Yeah. Your sister, I know she came up initially and she was so extraordinary at what she did. She got promoted right away.
Yes, she did.
And then you didn't even have the experience of a counselor. You just got, that's how we do it.
Yeah, just went right into it.
Throw you in when you're good. So I guess the moral of that story is to not be so great your first year so that you don't
Yeah. Exactly.
So you don't get all kinds of responsibilities.
Exactly. Yeah.
So Camp I Am and TLC they're specifically designed for children with autism.
Yes.
And I think it's so important to really continuously educate people on autism because I think there's so much misunderstanding out there. There's misinformation. People talk about some really harsh experiences where, there's behavioral challenges, and I think that's not the norm. It is the rarity in the way that children with autism just express themselves differently.
Yeah.
And sometimes it does get elevated, but I've also met a lot of typical people that can pretty much, go neck and neck with someone with autism, They maybe choose the situation a little differently, as far as when that expression, is expressed, right? So these camps are very different than working with children with chronic illnesses per se.
Yes.
And so can you help our listeners understand why that is? What do you notice that's really different in working with children with autism versus children with chronic illnesses? And I guess in order to do that, we should tell everybody what your background is.
I have 0 background in autism. When I first came up here, I was actually a critical care nurse at a hospital. And then for the last 10 years, I actually run a stroke and cardiac program for my hospital. So I had 0 experience, came up here my first year, obviously talking to all the different people who were on the camp committee just to get an idea of exactly what it is, what we're getting into. I came in the first year, I had absolutely no idea kind of what we were doing. I knew the medical side of things. I knew medications. I knew first aid. I knew how to keep people safe. But I didn't really know anything about our kids. So coming up here and meeting them for the first time was pretty amazing. I got to know them very quickly and kind of their workings and what they do and how to interact with them. And they're just like any other kid. They're happy. They are super nice. They're genuine people. They just want to come and have fun. And so as long as you are exuding that positivity and you're having fun with them, they're going to come back and have fun with you too. And so when it came to the medical side of things, we did kind of have to switch how we did things because it's not like going up to some, random person and saying, hey, here, take a Tylenol. There's a little bit more talking and a little bit more being a little nicer and softer and, kind of making jokes with them and having fun because sometimes for them medications are scary. And some of our kids are on a lot of medications. And so just trying to make it a fun experience for them. We usually bring up, first couple of years, we had like a treasure box. So they would come in for the medications, they would leave with something from the treasure box. We had different things that we would do with them, glow sticks, things like that, just to make them comfortable. Because a lot of people don't like to come to what we call our med shed, because it could be a scary place. That's where you come with owies and boo-boos and cuts and scrapes. And sometimes that's scary for them. So just trying to make that a more positive experience. That even though you came with this, we cleaned you up, we got you well. Now here, take something from the treasure box and go continue having fun.
Yeah. And it's interesting though, a lot of what you explained, because obviously I've been at camps even with children that are typical, and a lot of that applies to them as well.
Yep.
You know what I mean? There's a lot of crossover. There's never a one size fits all. And so I really like to emphasize that, the unusual circumstances sometimes that surround kids with autism, it's a very unique situation to them. And it's not this, blanket stereotypical, like this is all children with autism behave this way.
No, and they're just kids. They're kids like kids. Anybody else. Yeah. So, typical kids or kids with autism, you're going to treat them the same. You just may have to change things here and then, but they're all just kids at the end of the day.
Yeah, they are. So what would you say that you've noticed, your personal experience, is the biggest difference between, typical kids and children with autism?
I would say probably just the medications themselves. That's probably our biggest thing. We have kids with a lot more supplements, medications that they take. But the biggest, I don't know, because they're all just kids in the end. And so there's some like behavioral challenges and things that we have to work on a little bit more. We've got friendly faces who can get involved and help us with that. But I don't really have anything like specific that makes them any different from any other child. Yeah. Just a little bit more care and love maybe.
And so you, as a volunteer, also have your children come and join you at camp.
I do.
And so what do your children say about the experience as far as noticing differences? Because there are noticeable differences, but what do they say? What is their takeaway?
My son doesn't say anything. Because for him, he's just with a bunch of other kids.
I love that, yeah.
So he doesn't come to me and be like, hey, mommy, this kid did this. It's almost like he's oblivious because he's just here with a bunch of other kids experiencing a typical summer camp with those children. So he's never said one thing about any other child. He just looks at them, he dances with them, he hangs out with them, he swims with them. That's it. There is no difference. They're all just kids.
Yeah, they are. It's beautiful that kids... I wonder what age it is where they actually make the separation,
Yeah.
Because,
well, he's 7, so he hasn't made that
separation.
He hasn't
made it yet. Okay, so we're holding at 7 so far, right? And so then also when you look at, I would just say the volunteerism effort, okay? Because, there are a lot of wonderful opportunities to volunteer, A. B, there's a lot of wonderful volunteers, right? And I think that this camp it can be particularly difficult to find volunteers for. And why do you think that is?
Jessica could probably speak to more like the volunteers themselves, but I can speak on the nurses side that I don't have an issue. I actually have too many nurses who want to come back to camp with me.
That's lovely.
So I have the opposite issue of maybe somebody else. But I have nurses texting me like, hey, I just saw you were at camp. Can you put me on the list for next summer? Can I come back with you? The 2 nurses that I have at camp with me now, one of them has been doing it with me for 8 years, and the other one has been doing it with us for like 4 or 5 years. Neither of these nurses live in Nevada, so they travel from outside states to come here and do camp because this is something that they want to do every single summer, and it changes their life and it impacts their life. So I would say for me, I have 0 issues with volunteers on the medical side. If anything, I don't have enough spots for them.
That's cool. I remember in the beginning, because, back in 2010 when we first started, we were begging for volunteers. In particular, because it was an autistic-based camp and people were just completely oblivious as to what autism still was back then. There's a lot more, language around it. A lot more understanding, a lot of organizations that support the autism world. So I'm super glad to hear that, because it's priceless. These experiences up here for all kids, period, no matter what the situation is. So we have our parting question, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
What is your biggest takeaway? Like, what has the volunteer efforts done for you in your personal life? Like, what's the message that you would give the listener as far as your recap of history up here and your takeaway, your heartfelt takeaway?
So life down the mountain can get stressful. You're in your mundane everyday life of, I go to work, I come home, I eat, I go to sleep, and you wake up the next morning and you repeat it. And so coming up here and experiencing something like this on this beautiful property, you get away from life. And so you can leave all of that back home and you come up here and you can be a different person. You can be somebody who is happy. You interact with these children and you interact with other volunteers, people who are like-minded, who come up here and want to have the same experiences that you have. And it just changes your life. And so you could be super upset and depressed down the mountain. You come up here and all of those feelings go away because you see the smiles on these kids' faces, kids that don't have typical camp experiences, and you get to experience it with them. And for some of these kids, they don't get out and do anything. Maybe they stay home all day, every day. And so when they come up here for 4 days and they just have the time of their lives, it changes your life and it makes you appreciate everything. It makes you appreciate your health and your family. You go back home. I have 2 children and my 2 kids are typical kids. They don't have autism. It makes me appreciate that more. And it makes me appreciate even the parents who do this day in and day out. And for us to come up here and be able to give them just a small break and have fun with their kids. And we have a ton of parents that come up and volunteer so they can see what it's like. It's just a happy place. And so if you have any room in your heart, for 4 days, anybody can come up here and do this. And I guarantee you, if you come up here, you will come every single year after that.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
It's great.
Yeah, it's really lovely what you just said. I think sometimes, volunteering up here, it's a win-win situation.
Yeah.
For the volunteers and for the campers, right? You walk away with these extraordinary experiences that you cannot get anywhere else. You just can't.
Yeah, absolutely not. And I think us as volunteers, I think we get more out of it than anybody else.
I do too.
Obviously, the kids come, they have fun, get in the lake, foam pit, rock wall, arts and crafts, all the things. Like they get to have fun, do all the dances, but then we get to observe them having that great time. And so it just does more, at least for my heart, than I think it even does for the kids.
Yeah, foam pit. Foam pit is
the
such
foam
a blast.
pit, yes.
And watching them in the foam pit.
Everybody loves the foam pit.
So
yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, it's great though.
Yeah, it is great. Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, for sharing your experiences. And, I just can't tell you how much, you are so valuable up here. Obviously, camp couldn't happen without a medical director. So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us on the Be 100% podcast show. If you would like to get involved in any way, volunteer, donate to any of the organizations that we've had as guests on this show, please look at the description below. Definitely like us, love us actually, or follow us even better. And we look forward to delivering the next episode to you, so stay tuned.